Verse 7. Cyrus the king also brought out the vessels of the house, of the Lord, that Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem and placed in the house of his God. Cyrus, king of Persia, brought these, who counted them out, to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah, and this was the number of them. And so it was that all those who had gone into exile began to return to Jerusalem. They came back home and they began to rebuild, and guess what? They rebuilt the house of the Lord. So, we got an upper story and we've got a lower story. And it all has to do with the temple. It all has to do with God. You take God's presence away, you're in exile. You cannot go it alone. So what does the upper story tell us about? Let me give it to you, just in thumbnail sketch. This is quick. I'm going to put it right up on that screen there for you. You ready? This is what the upper story, this is what the Bible tells us. Tells us of, number one, of untold blessings. So if I had time today, we'd go back to our previous 17 weeks or 20 weeks of study, and we'd look at how God had blessed these people. Untold blessings. Blessing after blessing, battles won, buildings built, the temple built, God on their side. I mean, you could just go on and on. Number two, the upper story tells us about sin. Just keep it right there in Ezra, but go back one page in my Bible to 2 Chronicles chapter 36. Love to hear those pages turning. Sounds like the wings of angels to me. All right, 2 Chronicles chapter 36 and verse 16. Sin came and messed everything up. But they kept mocking the messengers of God, despising his words, scoffing at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord rose against his people, until there was no remedy. This story in the Bible tells us, yes, of untold blessings, but then tells us of a people who sinned against the Lord. And this is dramatic. Number three tells us of exile. Look at 2 Chronicles 36, verse 19. Verse 19. And they burned the house of God, and they broke down the wall of Jerusalem, and burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious vessels. He took into exile in Babylon those who had escaped from the sword, and they became servants to him and to his sons until the establishment of the kingdom of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths. All the days that it lay desolate, it kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. All right? Watch. Untold blessings, sin. They sinned against God. They mocked God's word. They removed God from everything. They decided they were going to worship their own pagan gods. They gave themselves over to the pursuit of their own pleasure. God broke down the temple, allowed it to be destroyed, and then sent those people into exile. And when they were in exile, folks, they were servants of others. They were no longer in control. They certainly weren't blessed. They were pillaged. They were treated badly. Their lives were in ruins. 70 years. That's a long time in my book. Number 4, the upper story tells us of a word from God. Look at 2 Chronicles 36 and verse 22. 2 Chronicles 36 verse 22. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord might be fulfilled through the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and also put it in writing. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms. He's charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. And whoever is among you, you people who are in exile, whose lives are in ruin, who have been scattered, who believe that there is no more future, no more tomorrow, it's over. Rise up, because God is speaking. And I want you to know you can come back home. You can rebuild your life. You can be whole again. Number 5, preparation. Look at Ezra chapter 1 and verse 5. Then rose up the heads of the fathers of the house of Judah and Benjamin. Preparation. By the way, do you know what these people had to do when God spoke to them in the midst of their earthquake? They had to actually get up. I think that's the hardest thing to do when you're down. They rose up. To someone listening to me today, listen to the word of the Lord. It's time to get up. Just get up. Stop lying down. Stop hiding. Got to get up. That's preparation. That's step number 1. Okay, number 6. This is going to go straight to somebody's heart here today. The upper story tells us of free will offerings. Ezra chapter 2 and verse 68. Look at verse 68 of Ezra chapter 2. Verse 68, some of the heads of the families, when they came to the house of the Lord that is in Jerusalem, made free will offerings to the house of God. You and I need to give free will offerings. And we don't have to see the final product in order to give. Folks, why do churches battle so much?